Hello, good evening. It's Monday night. This is In the Know, brought to you by the Racing Post. Don't worry, you haven't fallen asleep for a week. On the run-up to the Cheltenham Festival, of course, we'll be bringing you our Cheltenham preview shows every Monday to look back at the weekend and ahead to the big races coming up in a few weeks' time. And plenty to talk about over the past couple of days, of course, the Dublin Racing Festival, highs and lows. For everyone in the training ranks, in the saddle, and of course punters at home as well. We'll be looking back at that. We're going to be looking at a few Ante-Post markets this evening, the Champion Hurdle, the Brown Advisory Novices Chase, and also the Stayers Hurdle as well. One of those might take not quite as long as the other two, I would imagine. And of course, we'll be joined by Mr. Paul Kealy, Mr. Tom Segal, and Mr. David Stevens as well. And again, one of those might be two of those might be in slightly better state than the other one. But we'll soon see what Keel's made of Dublin and what Tom and David have made of their home over the past couple of days. So it is live and interactive, of course, so make sure you do like that stream and subscribe as well if you haven't already. The chat box is right in front of me, and there's going to be, like I said, lots and lots to talk about. So we've got plenty to come over the next 60 minutes or so. We'll be talking to Dan Skelton. But first, this.
It's the best recommendation I've ever had.
I use it every day without fail.
It's my go-to for any race day.
Mate, it's so good.
It's like Frankel, but quicker.
Puts me one step ahead of this lot.
I nearly hit your head. Right, which camera do you want me to look in?
Gills, what do you think of the new app?
Well, I'm on it now, aren't I? I need it for my job.
For the first of our Monday nights then here, as we gear up for the Cheltenham Festival, we're going to be joined by big guests every single week. And first things first, we're going to be talking to Mr. Dan Skelton. Hello to you, Dan.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm very well. And as ever, a busy weekend for you. What's your normal Monday plan post a big weekend for the yard?
The wheel keeps turning, so you just got to keep moving, really. Next weekend turns up pretty quickly. It was a nice weekend last weekend. We had 3 winners on the Saturday. Obviously, some exceeded expectations and some underperformed, and that's sort of standard week or weekend for anybody in the horse game. But yeah, on Mondays a little bit regather and just make sure everything's all right, and kick on to the weekend.
Well, let's start off by your most recent runners. Like you said, you had a few winners this weekend, and the most notable winner, I think, plenty of old friends going to post, but third time lucky, back to his best at Sandown. Absolutely pitch perfect ride. Did he surprise you on Saturday? How well he did that, or was that kind of a plan coming together around this time of year?
It didn't surprise me that he could win like that and that it all came together, because it was always going to at some point. But I suppose if you look back at the reality of the situation, he was one of the best novices last year. Obviously, he couldn't get past Edwardstone, but that's not there's no disgrace in that. But last year he was sort of one of the biggest and perhaps one of the boldest jumpers. This year when you go up against the grown-ups who've been doing it for a bit longer than you have, you've got to step up to their league. And the Holden Gold Cup, ultimately he didn't stay the trip, but it was all over before the trip became an issue. He didn't jump slickly enough, and Green, the team, sort of said, "Yeah, welcome to this league," and we just couldn't cut it for a run or two. But he's got some confidence. The handicappers found out where he should be rather than where everyone probably hoped he would be. You've got to have a dose of reality when they step out of novice class sometimes. And I think he's, hopefully a horse now, get a bit of confidence and can step forward. I don't think he's all of a sudden just going to be a midline handicapper. He's obviously better than that. And I hope he improves a little bit from the other day, because I think the ground can be better for him. But I think you've said something rather important, and that he got a beautiful ride.
Yeah, he did indeed. And the fact that he came off such a strong pace and finished so well bodes well for potentially a grand annual crack. I know you were saying that he's not necessarily going to be a mid-level handicapper, but you have to be a graded horse to win the handicaps at the festivals these years, don't they? So is that the plan, or do you have loftier ambitions?
No, I'll give him an entry, but I've always looked forward to running this horse as fresh as possible at Aintree, because I think Aintree's is a track that will really, really see him at his best. I've never ever took him there when he's been at his absolute best, and I don't know if the Grand Annual ground will suit him this year. We'll have to wait and see. He'll get an entry, but Mike, who owns him, he's not wedded to Cheltenham, and if it's not the right thing to do, we won't.
Okay, very well. We'll hopefully see him in the spring at either Cheltenham or at Aintree. As for your other runners this weekend, obviously you had an impressive winner in Hunter Chase Company. You got a strong hand there with Not That Fuise. And on the other side of it, bit of a disappointment in particular with Ballygriffin Cottage, who was looking to potentially gear up for a nice staying novice chase, crack at some graded company at Cheltenham or Aintree. But these things happen in the racing game. Tell us what happened with him at Wetherby.
He's just trying to go too fast. The ground was way too quick for him, and like I say, you're just trying to go too fast. Then he's going half a mile an hour quicker than he's comfortable. It's knocked him out of his comfort zone, and ultimately had a little bleed, which is not ideal. This horse has to run on soft or softer, so we need to go back to the drawing board. I'd say Cheltenham isn't going to happen. And we have to get the wheels back under him. Really, it's disappointing, but really this season, and it's there's nothing personal about it. It's nothing to do with any horse or connections or anything else like that. I mean, if you look at it in real terms, you probably had about 4 or 5 weeks. The 3 weeks at the end of November and the first week of December, where the horses got a clear run of it. After that, the Cheltenham December meeting afterwards got called off. And then it was quickly on to abandonments for rain and frost from the second week of January onwards. So it's just not been easy. There's not been time to run these horses, and it's not me moaning, going, "Well, I don't want to take my horse here, there, or everywhere. I'll take it. You know me. I'll run them anywhere." My approach is that racing's national, not regional. And it just haven't been able to run this horse, and you're running out of time. Your back's against the wall. Everyone wants to see that we're on track for one of the spring targets, and it sometimes backfires on you, and that's what's happened.
Yeah, but obviously you'll go back to the drawing board with him. In terms of your other runners, because this, like I said, this is at Cheltenham focused, as well. The whole season is for a lot of people. Love or hate that. Other horses to obviously mention. Protectorat. We've seen him since the new year. Did you were just saying about the weather and the tough conditions through December and the start of January? Did that affect his run up to the Cotswold Chase? And what does he have to do this year in the Gold Cup to win it that he couldn't do last year?
It didn't really affect him. No, I mean the gallop that we've got a couple of gallops here. The gallop he uses most was a little bit affected by the frost because he uses the deep sand more than any other gallop, to be honest with you. And that was a little bit in and out when we could use it through that frosty period. But I'm not laying any blame at the door because he canted every day. He was able to use the hill, and that was never out of use at any point. It's a very, very weak excuse to say that the weather interrupted his preparation for the Cotswold. I just thought he was fitter than he was, and I went to the Cotswolds thinking, I thought hopefully we could win without breaking any eggs. And in sport that doesn't really work. If you don't get your sleeves rolled up and get committed to the cause, you can get found out. And I think that, like I say, went there thinking he was in the 90% fitness, and he was more like in the 80s. He's been a little bit fresh because he's undercooked at home, so he's been over fresh as well. That's added to the fact that he's done too much early. And then the front two have got a very, very good ride. They've kicked away from us when our horses just took a blow, and that's accentuated the distance. But he's then stayed on from the back of the last when he's got his second wind. So I was happy enough with the performance, if you're calling it a trial. But obviously going into the race, I wasn't thinking it was just a trial. I was there thinking he would win. So, yeah, I suppose immediately you're disappointed to get him beat. But in terms of what it does for March, doesn't mean anything. That result means absolutely nothing. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of previews, Cheltenham previews coming up, and there'll be lots of people that'll be giving him plenty of negative reviews who don't know the horse at all and don't know what went on on the day. And I'm sure that they will tell us that we've all got no chance. But that doesn't offend me at all. They can get on and say that. I know the truth about the matter, and I'm very happy with him and know exactly what we have to do in the interim. And that is get our sleeves rolled up and get stuck in, and he'll get an away day, which I think will do him the world of good, and we'll just have him at his best for the Gold Cup.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's a lot of people from an outside perspective are quick to make judgments on one single run. Either I think people were probably saying, oh, he's not good enough to win a Gold Cup, and then he went to Haydock, and people were saying, my God, he is good enough to win a Gold Cup, and then suddenly post Cotswold Chase, he's not good enough again. I guess you've got to kind of look at it from a wider perspective, haven't you?
Yeah, but I mean, there's only all this chat because it's the Gold Cup. If it was another race that rolled around the corner, you take it, you take everything at face value. Just before the race. We're talking about this, some weeks in advance, and that's what the industry now demands. That we talk about these races at the Cheltenham Festival, but it doesn't. I'm not at all worried about the horse's performance. I'm not at all worried about his health, and I know his fitness can be improved significantly. So, I know what we've got to do to get him to Haydock standard, and my focus will be to get him on Haydock standard.
Okay, and again, another horse who I think after his last run down, people were saying, well, he can't win a champion chase, but then obviously his conqueror went on to win again at Ante-Post, and after the weekend, Gentleman to Me, springing a surprise against Blue Lord. Once again, the 2 mile chase division is wide open. Can Nube Negra get that big day in the sun this spring, or is it possible that he's just missed his chance at that very top level? What do you feel about him?
I don't think he's missed his chance. Obviously, it was very disappointing to get beat the year he was second to hit the bottle. Not hit the bottle. When put the kettle on.
Is that what you did after he just got beat down? I assume.
Yeah, I've got a broodmare called Hit the Bottle. That's what I was thinking. Thinking about that. But he is obviously he's not difficult to train at all. He puts so much into his training, and then he puts so much into his racing that you can't run him as much as some other horses. He has to be very fresh. Obviously, he won at Cheltenham at 10 on when he should have won. And then Editor De Geet situation happened. I remember immediately afterwards, oh God, that's not good enough, whatever. Editor De Geet got a fine ride that day at Kempton on ground that was, more in his favour than ours. I'm not blaming the ground. I'm not saying that the ground was why we got beat, but I'm saying it was more in his favour than ours. And we had to give him a penalty. And then he's come out and done what he's done at Cheltenham. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, whoa, that was pretty special. Maybe Editor De Geet's improving a lot. So this is like I said earlier on, when the industry demands all this talk about all these races. If you're fixing a market from 12 months out, it's going to change an awful lot, because those horses don't know what price they are at the time and what expectation there is on them. They're just going through their lives, and they improve, they disimprove, as Sir Mark Prescott says. And you just got to do your best with them, look after them, and I will have him as good as I can have him, and then I hope that the weather gods give us some help, because without their interference, our chances can be drastically diminished. I mean, look at last year; we just couldn't. Do we try it? Do we try him on that ground or not? He just literally cannot go on the ground that it was last Wednesday. So that was highly frustrating. But I'm happy with him at home. Like I say, he'll have an away day as well, and we know how to have him at his best.
Okay. I mean, you're speaking about the weather gods. The problem with being a trainer, Dan, I guess, is that for half your horses you're hoping it doesn't rain for a week, and the other half you're hoping for that downpour. And I just wanted to ask you about Gallia de Lito, because she clearly relishes testing ground, and we're previewing the Brown Advisory tonight, and she was wildly impressive last time out. Jumped for fun, stayed incredibly strongly, and put that blip behind her. As you were saying, one run doesn't make a horse's career. What's the plan for her? Because The 3 mile novice division, there's so many opportunities for novice chasers at the festivals that she might well find a good angle.
Yeah, I'll just wait and see about the opposition, but if she goes there, it'll want to be pretty slow ground, and she'll run either in the Brown. I think it's the Brown Advisor, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that the 3 miler? Yeah.
Yeah, or the Mares Race. I mean, there'd want to be non-stop rain in the forecast, I think, to run in the Mares Race over 2 mile 4. But she's very effective. She loves fences. Like Kempton is Kempton. It's behind us now. You can see what she can do. The form of Warwick got boosted with the Goffer winning a good handicap in Ireland over the weekend. And yeah, she's very, very exciting mare. I will be very, very cautious on the ground, though. Like you saw with Ballygriffin Cottage at the weekend, if they want a particular ground, you kind of have to achieve your very best. You have to find that ground, and that can be frustrating. I mean, if it was a year like last year with the Wednesday, I'd be rubbing my hands together if I had her declared for the Brown Advisory.
Okay, and speaking of exciting mares as well, must mention West Balboa, who looked very impressive. I mean, this is a horse who's already got Grade 1 form in the book, took apart an impressive handicap in the shape of the Lanzarote, and by the looks of things, she's entered at Warwick this weekend. Is it going to be that Marie's Rock path that worked so well towards the Mares' Hurdle last year for other connections? Of course, it looks like a nice stepping stone potentially to that level. Is that the plan?
It's not Plan A. Plan A is to go to Ascot next week for a £50,000 handicap hurdle. But if we thought that Warwick was sensible, it would have to come into play. I think this is an improving mare. I never obviously got a full novice year with her. She improved dramatically from her first run this year to go on and win the Lanzarote, where actually you've got to remember only 4 got round, which is quite unbelievable, really. And I thought, well, she must have had a hard race if only 4 got round, but she's blossomed coming out of it. I think she's one that is really improving, and whether she can, step up to the Love Envoy level, time will tell us. But I kind of think off her handicap mark, that the handicapper is daring us to have another go, rather than just go on then take on Love Envoy. I think there might be a little room in a handicap mark before we have to go to that level.
Okay, just a few more to talk to you about. We've got to mention Langadan, who. How do you feel about Langadan? Because he's got quite a fan club out there, but I imagine a lot of his fans spent quite a bit of time banging their head against the brick wall as well, thinking this horse is so talented, but luck doesn't always go his way. Are we back for another crack at some big festival races?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously he won at Aintree last year after getting brought down at the second in the conditional jockeys race. There's nothing you can do about that. The year before we met Gallopin de Champs. I don't think there'll ever be a better horse in a handicap than Gallopin de Champs. So, that's just how his life's gone at Cheltenham. But like I say, he made up for it at Aintree. He's just not, I don't know why, and it's not us trying to be clever or anything like that. Like he just doesn't perform anything like in the autumn like he does in the spring. And yeah, these days start stretching out, and he starts, he starts to get a little bit more sun on his back. He alters massively. I think if I can get another run into him, I will do, and then he'll get entries in the. He's already got an entry in the stayers, but that would be for just in case, really. The reality is he would go in either the Coral or the conditionals again.
Okay, and just a couple more before we let you go. You must have been quite excited about Pembroke stepping up in grade the other week. I think time may tell that he ran into an unexposed, unexpected and strong staying novice. But are we continuing down that sort of mid-distance trip, or is there a potential that he's going to be dropping back to 2 again? How's he come out of that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's got to drop back in trip. I think the trip effectively exposed a small weakness in our stamina, which I did. That was my only small question going into it. And beforehand, I thought he'd win. And I think I said as much on the telly. So I didn't go into it going, my God, the trip is going to be a real problem. but I did just harbour the smallest of doubts about it, and I was disappointed for that small doubt to effectively be borne out before us. But I do think that we bumped into a horse, like you say, that stays particularly well. I think one stays 3 miles and the other one doesn't even stay 2.5 yet. So, I think that's what sort of, like I say, accentuated the result. But fair play to the winner. You can't take anything away from them, and I think they've got a really nice horse on their hands there. We just went a bit green going to the last, ducked a bit left, put ourselves right over the jump, bit of a sloppy jump when we were on red. When it comes to the stamina gauge, a drop back in trip is definitely what he wants. He'll get an entry in a county.
Okay, and a couple of handicap chases for you. You've got really good Cheltenham form from the winter period. Of course, Midnight River came good, and an unexpected party again probably ran in to a pretty well handicapped horse. Are those two lined up? Will that warm up round Prestbury Park set them right for a crack at a handicap chase?
Midnight River is going to end up going for the plate, and I hope the ground is perfect for him, because I don't really want to be going and thinking about the Ultima, because if the ground's not perfect enough for the plate, you're kind of just trying to make you're trying to make it fit by going to the Ultima. And I just don't think we need to go that trip yet. I think 2 mile 5, especially on the Thursday's track, is perfect for him at the moment. So I'd like to see a bit of slow ground on the Thursday for him. And there's a bit of Twitter chat about us being particularly clever with Unexpected Party. Well, I wish everyone was that right. He's stuck between 2 stalls on trip. 2 miles, it's a bit quick for him, and 2 mile 4 and a bit, he's not staying. So yeah, we'll give him an entry in the 2 races. But to win any race at Cheltenham, you have to stay. You have to get through the line, and the most likely race he's going to do that in is the Grand Annual. I can just see him fading over 2.5, 2 mile 5 in the plate, and at least in the Grand Annual he will be staying on. I just think he's one of those horses that's stuck between the 2 trips at the moment. Maybe in a year's time he'll get a little more used to racing and he'll get the 2 mile 5 no problem. But I can tell all the Twitterati right now, there's no big plan at play here. I think a few people think there is, but you're wrong.
Yeah, but that's half the fun, isn't it, Dad? I mean, surely the amount of time and energy and effort put into people trying to get into your brain and work out what the plan is. If only it was that easy, right?
Yeah, there's not many. Yeah, we've got lots of horses. I think there's not really any secrets. You're running them all out there. You want them to get to the highest of their ability. And of course, we take Cheltenham very seriously, but it's not like we're not trying to win races en route. So when you look at a horse like Unexpected Party, I'd love to have won any of those races that he went in. I think, like I say, I think some people think that we're, sort of protecting him for a Cheltenham handicap. Well, that's just not the case at all.
I've seen of a horse of that nature for a while. It might not be up to Cheltenham level, but just a quick word on him for my own personal interest.
Most like to go for, if we can, there's a listed handicap chase on Paddy Power Day, Paddy Power EBF final day at Sandown, and that would be a really, really nice race for him. And then if he matures and grows up, and hopefully then we can start sort of opening the bigger days to him. But he takes a bit of handling, and but like I said, like you've obviously realised as well, he's got plenty of ability.
Okay, lovely stuff. Dan, thanks ever so much. In one sentence, before we let you go, what are you hoping for most for the rest of the season?
A Gold Cup.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. I mean, you've got to aim for the top, haven't you? You've got to aim for the top.
Exactly.
Well, best of luck. I hope Protectorat comes storming up the hill for you. And
thanks very much.
We will speak to you soon. Enjoy the rest of the season, Dan.
Cheers. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks to Dan for joining us then and going through his runners, hopefully at Cheltenham, and just the Gold Cup. Not asking for much, are you, in terms of his winners at Cheltenham? Now let's get stuck into the weekend just gone, and of course the 3 races that we're going to be looking at ahead of the festival as well. Joined by Mr. Paul Kealy, absolutely thrilled to announce that you survived the Dublin Racing Festival.
Only just.
Only just, yeah. Hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, it's been a long weekend, put it that way.
Yeah, it's Monday, mate. It's just to let you know.
It's a bank holiday in Ireland, though.
Is it?
Yeah, so it's still the weekend over there, and that's where I was this morning.
All right, fair enough. Okay. Not sure where you are right now, but...
Who am I can promise you.
Tom Segal, live from home as well. Tom, good evening to you.
Hi Ross, how you doing?
I'm very well. Have you? What's? Is that it? Of course it is. Yeah, it's a Reading top. Yeah, they're lovely stuff. Yeah. Have you? Is the notebook full from the weekend?
No.
Okay, good. David Stevens has joined us as well. Good evening to you, David.
Good evening, gents. Lovely to join you again. Now, normally, obviously, spending a Monday evening with you three would be the highlight of my Monday night by far, but you are merely the tasty hors d'oeuvre tonight before the 7 o'clock at Wolverhampton. The 7 o'clock at Wolverhampton, I hear you ask. Why is that? Well, Conservative runs in the 7 o'clock at Wolverhampton for the Coral Racing Club. Phil Dennis on board, trained by Scott Dixon. We've got a couple of lucky owners there tonight cheering him on. Let's just hope that this Conservative fares better than Liz Truss. But I may just have to duck out. If we're not done by 7 o'clock, you may just lose me for a couple of minutes, but that's where I'll be.
Okay, I always knew you were Tory, David. Conservative at the 7 o'clock. Can Conservative strike? Is the question for this evening. In terms of the weekend's action, Keels, you were there, and I assume you watched some of it. But
I watched it all, mate. No, I always watched the racing.
Yeah, it was.
So does virtually everybody there. It's a great thing about going racing in Ireland. Everybody is there for the races. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's not a side.
Yeah, it's not a social. It's not just a social occasion, which you can get to a lot of meetings in Britain. It's everybody is there for the horses.
Yeah. Now, we could have an entire hour going through each race with a fine-tooth comb, of course. It was a bit of a weird one, wasn't it? Because, I mean, if you're Willie Mullins, you're both thrilled and
you've never seen anybody anybody so annoyed to have the first 4 in a Grade 1 hurdle, is it? So.
Let's just, I mean, there was obviously some very choice words afterwards about riding performances in the saddle, and obviously some very short prices beaten. Of course, all those short prices were beaten by stablemates, who themselves were genuine Grade 1 horses as well.
Yeah.
What's the headline you would take out of the weekend personally?
The headline is I don't think there's any doubt about Galloping Deschamps staying anymore, because I thought he hit the line really, really hard. Okay. He had to work. You know, you can look at that form and say, well, he's actually only beaten Fury Road 8 lengths. You know, it's not an outstanding piece of form, but he showed that he stayed, and he's the right favourite for the Gold Cup, although not one that you can't take on. I think day one, we were looking a couple of weeks ago. We were thinking, oh my word, this is going to be the dullest day one in the history of the Cheltenham Festival. So many odds-on favourites. How can they get beat? Suddenly, the Supreme Novices Hurdle has exploded into life. It's 5-2 to field. Haven't had an odds-on favourite since almost November, and
still Mullins though.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. Well, you know, actually, Marine National isn't Mullins, is it?
No, but I think the betting has. Well, David can tell us more.
The problem is,
I'm pretty sure the first 4 in your betting were pretty much all Mullins trained, aren't they, David?
The favourite now is Marine National, who is the 3-1 favourite. But then it's Facile Vega 7-2, 4-1 Gaelic Warrior 6-1 Il Est Tonton. But a rare race that Willie doesn't have the favourite.
But you always see this with all the Willie horses. Nobody knows where they're going to go yet.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a case of wait and see. That it's very hard to make head or tail of some of the markets, because you can see, especially when they all start betting non-run and no bet, you see some ludicrously short prices about horses aren't going anywhere near a certain race.
Yeah.
But it has become more interesting, and we've actually got, we've got a potential absolute superstar in Constitution Hill, but running against a horse who keeps winning in State Man. You know, I mean, in any other year, State Man's a short price favourite for the Champion Hurdle, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But he can't get near favouritism because Constitution Hills looks so good.
Or at the very least, those two can barely split them, whereas there is a huge divide.
Yeah, exactly. But you have got 2 horses who won at the Cheltenham Festival last season who are unbeaten since, one from Britain, one from Ireland, Okay, they're not that close in the betting, but it does give a bit of spice to it, doesn't it? Like, you know, it's a good race.
Yeah, it does.
You know, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, so the Supreme and the Champion Hurdle are given a bit more spice, Tom. As were plenty of other races, in particular. I mean, the Champion Chase now, after the past couple of weeks, suddenly looks absolutely wide open as well, unless Energumene can bounce back and, you know, put his class to the course. But was there anything else out of this weekend at Leopardstown? Was there any opinions you had that were solidified or anything caught your eye?
No, I just thought that the horse that won Facile Vega's race, if Facile Vega had won in the style he did, he'd be 1-3. I thought Ante-Post was by far the most impressive performance of any horse at the Irish Racing Festival. The time was good 3 seconds faster than State Man. Everything about it tells me it's top class. It's just because we have perceptions of horses. We're told Facile Vega's good. We're told Energumene is brilliant. We're told all these things. But I like looking at horses with my own eyes. And for me, Ante-Post was completely the standout performance over the past 2 days. And he should be the red-hot favourite for the Supreme, in my opinion. I think it's because we have preconceived ideas that he's not that good, that he's a bit funny, that he pulls hard, all these sort of things. He didn't do any of that on Sunday. And if he runs the same race, I think all he's got to do is run the same race at Cheltenham. I think he'll win. Okay,
yeah. I mean, he was fifth in the Triumph last year, and in a performance that was. It was his second run for the yard, wasn't it? And he was still clearly a bit of a baby. So,
yeah, I don't even take any notice of those runs, Rob. I think they're irrelevant. I think you've got to concentrate on what they've done. You know, the last run's the relevant one, and that one is better than anything else has done. Yeah. I think.
No, I just think that people are probably looking back at that and going, "Oh, they're looking at that horse rather than this horse."
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what people do too much. Yeah. Keels is very good at it. Keels is very good at deciphering the good from the bad. Third time, like a very good example of what we're talking about here. You've got to decipher what the true level of what the horse's ability is and whether the conditions are going to suit. And for me, Ante-Post has done miles more than anything else in that race, more than Marie Nationale. Marie Nationale beat Irish Point ahead, didn't he, in the Royal Bond?
Yeah, that's a strange one as Fav, isn't it? Because, I mean, Irish Point couldn't even go to pace. Yeah, he was never in the race at all, was he?
Yeah, and I presume he'll go for a handicap. I don't think he'll even run in the Supreme. So just me, that's the way I look at it. I can't believe he's not favourite. I think he should be favourite. I think clearly got the best form. And of all the horses that ran at the Irish Racing Festival, that's the one that remained a too big a price.
I mean, the most entertaining race for me was the Irish Arkle, Tom. It was an absolute blinder. I mean, every horse showed up, didn't they, in that race? Every horse, pretty much, to my eyes, ran to their level. You had a horse in El Fabiolo really, become a man, as it were, in that race. And again, this was another horse who. It wasn't until Aintree last year that you really knew how good he might be. And obviously Banbridge coming from God knows where to run on for second, which I know a lot of people say go for the Turners. I almost hope he goes to the Arkle and he does that again and they just stop a little bit in front, which they have been known to do. But that was the one race for me. I'd watched that race back a couple more times and I'm still not bored of watching it. It was an absolute cracker, and that division's very interesting as well.
Yeah, those two, Ante-Post and the Arkle were the standout time performances of the weekend. It was a rocket time, as you'd expect, with Dysart Dynamo going off in front. I think what we got out of it is that Banbridge and, for me, Appreciate It need to go further. They won't be able to compete. I'm going to sound ridiculous, but I wouldn't totally give up on Dysart Dynamo because it's a furlong and a half shorter at Cheltenham. It's on the old course. It's a nice sharp track. If he got sort of a freebie out there, I could see him running a lot better than he did on Saturday. I thought they maybe overdid the front running tactics on him. I know people say that they can't hold him, but I think they probably went a bit too fast on him. But Il Fabiolo was really impressive. Slightly concerned about his jumping sometimes. He's not the most fluent, but there's no doubting that he was superb, and the way he hit the line strongly, I think he'll take, him versus John Bond will be one of the races of the festival for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, we've got Ballymore moves Goodland as well. Triumph moves a Garnham or so, and Lossy Mouth, Mighty Potter as well, winning again, and he'll be I mean, obviously with Mighty Potter. And the other one we must mention, of course, didn't run at Leopardstown and won at Sandown. And,
I was
and ran the race.
With Jerry Colomb, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we said in the preview, we said, why are we going for this? Why is he going for this race if he's a proper stayer? And he won the race in the style of a proper stayer.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah, he did, and he's proved himself, that he's not just a mudlark.
Yeah.
The ground was, it certainly wasn't soft at Sandown, was it?
No.
So yeah, he's put down a good marker, I think.
David, big moves from the weekend before we move on to the three we're going to preview.
Yeah, and it's quite similar to the previous Saturday at Cheltenham, really, where perhaps we didn't get the results we expected in advance. But for me, what it's done is it's sort of whet the appetite even more for the Cheltenham Festival. As Kealy said, those couple of those races now on day one are much more open, much more interesting now. And for me at Leopardstown, the standout performer you just mentioned was El Fabiolo, because Tom alluded to this on Friday night show that Irish Arkle was probably going to be the novice chaser of the season, because Willie Mullins has so many good novice chasers over 2 miles, and he was running them all. And El Fabiolo won it with real authority and backed up with a good time as well. So yeah, it's now 11-8 John Bond, 2-1 El Fabiolo. So that's now a contest to savour. And of course, very little between them on their novice hurdle run at Aintree last year as well. So that was a cracker for me. And yeah, Gordon Elliott. 2 Grade 1s. Most trainers would take that in a season. Gordon did it in a day or over a weekend and still sort of lost out to Willie Mullins overall. But Mighty Potter is now 6-4 for the Turners, and the horse Jerry Colomb that maintained his unbeaten record 3-1 for the Brown Advisory. So lots of really good performances, as I say. But I think whet the appetite more than sort of because there's still quite a few unanswered questions. There's horses have got to bounce back. There's horses that stake their claim. But really, just interesting what Tom had to say about Ileton Tomp there. As I say, 6-1 for the Supreme Novices. But given that bullish update from Tom, I genuinely expect that to be backed in the next sort of 24 hours or so.
Okay, there we go. And just to mention, you talked about Gordon Elliott as well. I thought Pied Piper was a bit interesting for a county hurdle, potentially. The same owners had Colonel Mustard third in that last year, and I thought if he goes down to 145 or something, he could run a big race in that. But there'll be plenty of races like that to go through, and plenty of horses in the notebook, I'm sure. Has your 2 for the tracker gone out yet, Tom?
Not yet. It will be going out on Sunday, I think. So yeah, I've got a bit of work to do on that yet. But there will be from the Irish race, the Dublin Racing Festival. That's for sure. I'll try and unearth a couple from a few of the handicaps. They might phone Mr. Kealy for his help at some stage.
Yeah, that's the replay master. Let's move on then and have a look at a few of the festival races. Obviously, a few of them starting to develop quite nicely, and we're still at the point, of course, where we're trying to work out what runs, what doesn't run, and I think we're pretty sure. Touch wood. Is that wood? Pretty sure that's wood. That we do have Constitution Hill and State Man at least lining up for the champion hurdle this year. 1-4 Constitution Hill, 5-2 State Man. Vauban 10-1, Honeysuckle 14s, Epatante 16s, Sir Gerhard 25s with Echoes in Rain and bigger prices the rest. You get the feeling that some connections, if you're not Constitution Hill, State Man and Honeysuckle, it could well end up being a 3-horse race here, because you start to look past those and you wonder what's going to get involved. Obviously, Vauban is splitting those as well at 10-1. But as you were saying, Keels, like I said, if you take Constitution Hill out of it, and everyone will be raving about State Man and thinking, how can this horse get beat? Everything's in his favour. But of course, Constitution Hill could well be a bit of a monster. His last 2 runs would have won any champion hurdle going back years and years and years.
Yeah, absolutely. The performances he's put up, and Epatante reminded us of how good she actually is when she just completely destroyed a load of mares last time. Obviously, it's a lot lower level, but she still travels through her races really well. But then Constitution Hill gets her at it, and she's got nothing. He just goes away from her. So he does look a complete monster. He's got the best form. State Man's got to find some more again. He might just be, in the incredibly unlucky position of being a better horse than a lot of recent champion hurdlers, but not get a chance to win one, because Constitution is that good. But State Man is very, very good as well. We've seen that Honeysuckle isn't the horse she quite was. It seemed that it was more likely, from what we gathered yesterday, to be mares or retirement rather than champion hurdle. Epatante has been pretty much confirmed for the mares.
Do you not think Honeysuckle they'll just go for it anyway, just because she deserves to be there on her past exploits?
No, because I think if you can win another race at the festival and you can't win this one, then you're going to end up going there. Okay, and I think that's, because she'll be borderline favourite. She'll be nearly favourite for the mares, won't she?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Won't win either, will she? Though?
No, I don't think so. So it wouldn't be a great surprise if she didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I think she'll go nowhere, and if she does go anywhere, I agree with Ross. I think she'll go in this race because I think it's very, very seldom you see horses go from good races to bad races and then retire. If she retires on the back of her getting stuffed in the mares, it really does put a downer on going out on a down note. I think she'll be retired, but if she doesn't, I think she'll run in this race because I think there'll only be 5 runners. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, it is shaping up that way, isn't it, Tom? I started to go through it, and I think, why on earth would your First Streets and your Chargers and your I Like to Move It's and horses like is it Glory and Fortune, the Lacey horse last year who ran an absolute cracker. All those horses this year are going to go, well, we're not bothered because we're not going to get 4th because we're going to be behind 3 genuine Grade 1 horses.
Well, that's right. There's 4 mares in there that they say aren't going to run. Echoes in Rain, Effetante, Love Envoi and Honeysuckle already, and there's only, I think, 16, 15 in there already. So we're down to 11 already, and that's Danaher's not going to run, I doubt very much. And so you're looking at 5 or 6 runners. So maybe they will say, look, we'll give her one last hurrah there. She could easily finish 3rd, couldn't she? I mean, she beat
I think that's the thing. I mean, going out, like you said, going out 3rd in the Champion Hurdle after that incredible run is absolutely fine. Most owners, trainers would kill for that kind of profile.
Yeah, I'd much rather see her finish 3rd there than get finished down the field in a pace, wouldn't you? So maybe she'll run, but look, it don't really matter. She's not going to win. Constitution Hill versus State Man, and I do think State Man's a player. I do. I think Constitution Hill has looked incredibly good, but so does State Man. And the one thing about State Man that's totally changed is his jumping. Because I thought he was a bit lummoxed when he won the county hurdle. I thought he got through on ability alone, but he was electric in the at Leopardstown the other day. He was taking lengths out of them all at every hurdle. So I think I don't think he's going to beat Constitution Hill, but I think he's a viable opponent.
Okay, David, have you got anything else tasty for this race that we can have a go at rather than looking at 1 to 4 and 5 to 2?
Yeah, just to say we are non-runner money back now on this Champion Hurdle and the other 4 championship races. So that 14-1 Honeysuckle, you wouldn't lose if you took that now. Look, for what it's worth, I wouldn't surprise me if they retired her. She's been brilliant. There'll always be the doubters about her, but you don't win 2 Champion Hurdles and all the others without being a very special horse. But her time is past. Constitution Hill and State Man. At least, as Tom says, we've got a credible rival to the 4-1 on favourite, but he is 4-1 on for a reason. So winning margins is where it at. Constitution Hill to win this Champion Hurdle by over 8 lengths was 7-4, is now 9-4. So 22 lengths he won the Supreme by, but more than 8 lengths, 9-4.
Yeah, well, that's 8 lengths is 4 lengths less than he's won any of his races so far, which is frightening, really, isn't it, given what he's won? Okay, Champion Hurdle then, the big race, of course, on day 1 of the festival. Moving on, the next race we're going to have a look at ahead of that time is the one that has had a bit of an impact over the weekend. We mentioned Jerry Colombe winning the Scilly Isles at Sandown, getting outpaced and staying on doggedly up the hill at Sandown, and it's 3-1 for this contest. Time Hill is 5s with the Real Whacker, whose form was taking a little bit of a knock, sort of. I mean, Thunder Rock still ran well. Sir Gerhard 7s, Gaillard Domain Hill 8s, Mighty Potter 10s, Gentleman's Game is 12-1, James de Burleigh is 12-1, Ramillies, Devil's Coachman, Stage Star, Balco Coastal, and Gallia de Lito, who Dan mentioned earlier. I still think would be very interesting if it did get quite soft. It's wildly impressive last time out. She could be interesting, but no surprise to see Jerry Colombe sort of harden up at the top of the betting. Tom, in the preview for the Scilly Isles on Friday night, I said it was weird because you're looking at a 2.5 mile race and you go down the roll call and they all ended up being 3 mile horses. And Jerry Colombe, I mean, it was such a 3 mile performance, wasn't it, on Saturday? And the horse just keeps winning.
Yeah, I like him. I mean, he stays really well, doesn't he? I think ground is softer ground would help him, but as Kealy said, it wasn't that soft at Sandown. I thought that race, the Scilly Isles, I know everyone hates the Scilly Isles, but I thought it was better than the Irish race myself. Okay. I think Balco Coastal and Thunder Rock are as easily as good as the horses that finished placed in the Irish race behind Mighty Potter. I thought that fell apart, the Mighty Potter race. I think Jerry Colombe is plenty short enough, though. I think there's plenty in there. I'm not convinced the Real Whacker's an out-and-out stayer at the trip, even though people tell me he is. I know he finished 3rd ran well in the River Don at Doncaster, but I thought that the trip in the Dipper suited him really well. I think horses that jump and travel like that Whether they really want to go up and turn it into a sort of a slog test, I'm not sure. I think it's hard to fancy Galliard Domain nil really in this race. I'm sure he won't go. Marty Potter won't go. James de Burley fluffed his lines, didn't jump very well. I think there's some value in there. Time Hill's interesting, isn't he? I think the thing about Time Hill is there's two horses that ran at Newbury earlier in the season on what was it called? The Coral Gold Cup Day. Sorry, Dave. Time Hill and Stage Star, who both jumped like they had diving boots on, and yet both came out next time. Time Hill in the Quarto Star and Stage Star in the Cheltenham Handicap, and jumped like totally different. They look totally different horses to the ones they looked at Newbury. Now I don't know if there was something funny about the ground at Newbury, but Time Hill jumped very well at Kempton, very well, and I think he's better than all these on hurdles. He can jump like that round Cheltenham with the cheek pieces on. I think he's really hard to beat. Sir Gerhard is fine the ointment, but I hated his jumping on his debut. I know they said once he got outside he was good, bad. He nearly took a fence home with him at Gowran. He's got a lot to prove for me on his second run back. It pulls hard as well, so whether he'll get the 3 miles, I don't know. The other one I would throw in there is Nick Luck bred this horse, Gentleman's Game.
Yep.
Big grey horse for Mouse Morris, who's just a really good, solid jumper and stayer. If the ground is good, I think he's got a very good chance. If there's any cut in it, I think it's between Jerry Colombe and Time Hill.
Okay, there we go. Jerry Colombe, Time Hill, and Gentleman's Game, a few to conjure with. Yeah, I mean, partly though, if a 9-year-old Time Hill won this race, there'd just be something in my heart that would sink a little bit.
Well, it's funny when I was saying that at Leopardstown the other day, if Appreciated had won the Irish Arkle, something it would just disappoint me that the best 2 mile novice chaser round's already 9.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. It's a bit like that. But yeah, I mean, Tom's right. If he does jump like he did at Kempton, I mean, having watched the Newbury race, I thought, why would you even bother staying over fences? But then the cheek pieces have worked, and he did jump really, really well. And of course, he's in the frame at Cheltenham Festival every year he runs there, isn't he?
Yeah,
So. He's got loads and loads of track form. So, he's got to be a real threat. The other one that Tom mentioned, Gentleman's Game, I put up 2 in the weekend around Ante-Post. One of them was Ballygriffin Cottage, who burst a blood vessel, tailed off at Wetherby the other day, so that's down the pan. Good job it was no man and no bet. But Gentleman's Game, he's been placed 3 times in Grade 1 hurdles from 2 mile 6 to 3 mile. And like times he's just really, really solid performer. And he came out and he beat I Am Maximus very easily. Toyed with him, won by 8 lengths. I Am Maximus was only beaten 11 by Mighty Potter on Sunday. It makes that form look pretty good because he really toyed with him. It's just he's a slow burner. He's been brought along deliberately slowly for fences.
Yeah. But is that not a slight worry? Because I mean, and partly, the tape in my brain about this race is a few years out of date. But a horse coming into this race off a 2 mile 5 win, 1 run over fences a couple of years ago wouldn't have got round, and because it's often a pretty brutal contest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's got time to have another run. Just don't
true.
know where. But there's certainly time to get another run into him.
Yeah, that was my only worry, because he's got the quality clearly, but I just wondered whether he might get a bit taken off his feet. I'm just going to the one thing that Tom said there about Gaillard Domain Neil. He might go for the 4 miler. He's currently 7-4 for that, but I think you're a bit dismissive of him there, Tom. I mean, it would be quite amusing, wouldn't it, if a horse who's seemingly been in Novice Cup, but for the best part of feels like about 5 years, went and won this race. But he's got the quality, he's got the form, and he's still only 7 years old.
Well, yeah, I'm really, he was 3rd in the race last year and was probably a better race than this year's.
That's what I thought it was, yeah.
And we keep going. Everyone keeps saying that he's going to run in the 4 miler, and I put him up for the 4 miler in the big jump off preview back in October. But William Owens keeps running him in 2 mile 5 furlong Grade 1s, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So they obviously think he's got a bit of speed, and he keeps running in Grade 1 company. Is he going to drop down to a Grade 2? I'm pretty sure Patrick Miles would love to ride him, but he's not going to get the say-so if they decide that this is our best hope of winning this race.
Yeah. And he's,
I'd still be worried if I've backed him for the National Hunt Chase.
Yeah.
I tell you what, if you're worried about a 9-year-old winning a Champions Race, you'd be more worried about a horse that's been beaten like 17 times over fences winning it, because I would. Yeah,
Well,
that's the
I
way
mean,
look.
you say that, but that's used to be, this race used to be which horse has been beaten 17 times over fences, and you know will get round.
Did it? Did it really?
Oh, I mean, Boston's Angel, your Weapons Amnesties, what was the O'Filan's Boy? This used to be brutal. It used to be horses who'd run 400 times and just kept going through the pain barrier.
Yeah, but you only get 8 runners these times, don't you? This is the thing.
Long press. They seem to win every race they ran into up until this race, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's finished placed in every single race. I think he's just grown up a bit this year, Gail O'Neill. If he turned up in this,
you can bag in with me, no worries.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, no worries.
David, can you? I don't know what Segal bookmakers is offering. But what have you got up your sleeve for the Brown Advisory?
We'll let him beat the 8-1 that we're offering. Market headed, I mentioned by Jerry Colombo off the back of that win at Sandown on Saturday. Not much between him and the Real Wacker, actually, on the sort of Montmoral Thunder Rock form. Obviously, the Real Wacker winning the Dipper. Time Hill, I love Time Hill, as a lot of punters do. He may be 9, but you can't be ageist like that. And that race at Newbury that Tom referred to seemed to make a man of both him and Stage Star, because they both came out and were much, much better next time out. There's one there, not on the graphic, but the Devil's Coachman, trained by Noel Mead. He won his last race in the steward's room, but that was his first try over 3 miles, and he jumped a lot better that day. He's around the 14-1 mark. He might be one to bustle up the first few in the betting, but Gordon Elliott does has the favourite and a few others. And Gordon Elliott to win this Brown Advisory. We were 2-1. We are now 5-2.
Okay, thank you very much, David. That's the Brown Advisory in 3 miles for the novice chasers. 3 miles for the hurdlers. Up next, the last race we're going to look at is the Stayers at Hurdle, where Chupu is at 5-2 favourite here. Home by Dali at 4-1, Blazing Carl at 6-1, then Marie's Rock at 6-1, so Gerhard 7s. And Flooring Porter 7s. Gold Tweet is 7-1, as well. Sharjah is 10-1, and then bigger prices. The rest of the horses who might turn up are in the betting. Monkfish is in the betting. Ashdale Bob might well turn up. Classical Dream, of course. Paisley Park, Buzz, Dashel Drasher. There's a lot of interesting horses in here for, well, a variety of reasons, but that's the Stayers Hurdle, isn't it? That every single year you get a bit of a rogues gallery, Keels. However, the front 2 in the market have passed every test pretty much this year, but you're slightly lukewarm on them for differing reasons.
I'm against the first 3 in the market, to be honest.
Okay.
The first 3, not including Marie's Rock, but Tiapu, for a horse that looks like a proper mudlark. I mean, you've got to worry about that. I just wouldn't back him if the ground isn't soft.
Yeah.
He was obviously, he may be a stayer now, but he was rushed off his feet in the Champion Hurdle last year. But he only won a race last time. He's become very short price for winning a race that he was fully entitled to win in the manner that he won it. Yep. You know what I mean? It was just a Mickey Mouse race. And the top speed figure was rubbish. Like, you know what I mean? He was just miles better than them. The third was rated 123 or something.
Do you think he was shortened up just because everyone went, we've got no other options in this race?
Exactly.
We need a favourite.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then we go down. Now, Home by Lee is solid, but I think he's beaten horses that have been disappointing. I mean, a 3-length win from Ashdale Bob is does not in any normal year make you 4-1, 9-2 for a Stayers Hurdle. Ashdale Bob's been renovated. He's rated 151. Bob Ollinger, we know, has gone at the game. So, and then what else have we got? Blazing Carl. I mean, we haven't seen Blazing Carl for over a year.
Yeah.
Right? And he, as good as he looks, he's only beaten Gelino Bello.
Yeah.
He'd be 80-1, 100-1 if he were running this.
Yeah.
So
what have you got up your sleeve then?
What have we got to be? I tell you what I'll do. Gavin Cromwell was getting a bit more bullish about getting Flooring Porter there. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing about Flooring Porter is he didn't win a race until the Stayers last year. Mm-hmm. So he's only being prepared for one race every year. Right? We know he loves Cheltenham. The key word, if you look at the results of the last 2 Stayers Hurdles, is the last one on his racing comment where he says unchallenged. He's absolutely bolted up both times. Won very, very easily. Just ran away from him after the last. I think if Marie's Rock would interest me if she went there. There was talk about her doing so. And for a horse that went off 11-4 favourite last year and hasn't really done much wrong, I mean, he's only beaten a neck by Tiapu last time, Classical Dream is a big price at 14-1.
Oh, it would,
You know,
it would kill me. It would kill
it's
me.
not a horse that you. It's not a horse that you know, you can ever really trust. But like I said, he's gone down by a neck to the horse's 5-2 favourite, and suddenly. Sorry.
He's not going to run. He's injured.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was what Willie Mullins was into. That's why he's that big a price. But then
Right, gotcha.
non-running, Coral's money back. So if he had his press day today, I wonder what came out of that. But that was the vibe that
Right.
he had his injuries, and that's why he's the price he is.
Okay. Well, so clearly Keels is taking on the head of the market here quite strongly. Tom, have you done your Stayers Hurdle piece? What did you like in the market?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you about that in a minute. I'm with him entirely on T Hoopu. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. The time of his Galmoy Hurdle winner was about a second faster than the Thyestes on the same day, which is over fences and half a furlong further. They literally crawled round, and he beat some really rubbish horses easily, as he should have done, which is not a test of stamina at all. So he's got plenty to prove for me. Ground, track, trip, everything. So 5-2 for me is an out. He might turn out to be the best horse, a top class stay and hurdle horse, but at the moment, for me, he hasn't done it. 5-2 is a bad price. Blazing Cull, Charles Burns is making, he said it, I think there was a quote yesterday that it's much less than 50-50 he gets there. Marie's Morocco, they've always said we'll go for the mares. I think they might switch. If she ran in this race, I think she'd win. Because I think she'd love 3 miles. I think she's really good. I think she's super talented, and getting £7 from the boys, I think I'd be all over her. But I'm not sure. I mean, you can back her now because obviously you've got the non-runner, no bet, or the runner money back, or whatever it's called, guarantee. So Gerhard's not going to run here. Flooring Porter, I know what Keel says, but last year in the Leopardstown race, he gave Classical Dream about a 10-length head start and was only beaten a length and a half, or about a length. This year he was absolutely the floor. They wagged the floor with him in that race. Now I know they're getting him ready for the one race, and if the ground's good, he's not had a preparation like he had last year. He can't have, so I'm against him. The Gold Tweet, I don't tweet, but he was quite impressive the other day. What the level of that form is, I don't know. I don't think Drasher would be on my list. I ended up on Home by the Lee. He was a much bigger price when I did him. I just think he's a different horse. He's the same sort of thing as I was talking about with Ilete Tom. I think people have pigeonhole horses too quickly. And Home by the Lee was this sort of lummox that sort of flew home late, like he did in the Stayers Hurdle last year. I think he was 6th or 7th last year in a slowly run race, and he sort of flew home after the hill out of getting outpaced. And people have him down as that. Well, he's not that anymore. He's a totally different horse. He was really impressive. I know the form at Leopardstown first time up isn't great. It was only Bob on it, but it was 2.5 miles, and he travelled like a totally different horse to the one he did last year. I think he's got a very, very solid chance. But 4-1, it's plenty short enough for me now. I mean, as I say, the one I'm interested in most is Marie's Rock. If she was to go here, I think she'd be something to bet on.
Okay, Marie's Rock is it's currently a 6-1 shot for the Stayers Hurdle. Just going to check if David Stevens is still there. Did he watch the 7 o'clock at Wolverhampton? How did we do, David? How did you do?
I think we finished 4th Conservative. I think.
Oh, there you go.
I just need to. I was paying sort of half attention to this and half to that. But I think 4th. So yeah, but the prize money picked up for the 10 owners. So that's great.
Okay, so behind. What, Labour, the Greens, whatever it was.
Yes, ahead of the current Tories. So.
The Stayers Hurdle. Tell us what offers, opinions.
Opinions, yeah. Gold Tweet. I mean, looked like he'd been dropped into the Cleve Hurdle, with a furlong to run, and Johnny Charon absolutely unmoved. And I mean, how good was that? I suppose we just don't know. Will they supplement him? Let's hope so, because bit of French interest in the festival would add to it, so he'd be an interesting one. I'd say 7-1 non-runner money back. Ante-Post, yeah, you mentioned it earlier. I think we were just looking for a favourite, and it was his first run over 3 miles, and he'd beaten obviously Honeysuckle the time before that. Home by the Lee has done nothing wrong with his 2 wins. He's been well backed as well. Willie Mullins has got loads in this. Interesting what Tom was saying about Classical Dream. He's also got Saint Sam, who won a handicap at Punchestown last time, but Willie Mullins keeps on about how you see the best of this horse when he steps up in trip, and the fact he still has the entry for this Stayers Hurdle, I think he's around 12, 14-1. He might be interesting. But our enhanced offer does involve the first two in the betting, Ante-Post or Home by the Lee to win by over 3.5 lengths. Very precise, that one. Over 3.5 lengths. Was 11-4, now 7-2. But maybe St. Sam for me each way.
Okay, there you go. You'd have 72-1, I think, with Keels for that that prize boost there. But that's the three races we're going to be looking at. A little bit look back at the weekend as well. And basically, the first Cheltenham preview of the season for In the Know. We'll be back every Monday, of course. We'll be back with some Friday shows as well, because we've got a big week ahead. Of course, midweek we've got the Sydney Banks at Huntingdon, and then of course we've got Newbury at the weekend. Is there anything you're particularly looking forward to this week, Keels? Apart from a good sleep.
I'm looking forward to seeing Rare Edition in the Sydney Banks.
Yeah.
And hoping he'll throw his hat further into the ring for the Supreme. And then he does that, and then Rubo, who finished second to him at Kempton, is in the big hurdle race at Newbury on Saturday.
Okay, there you go. Tom, anything you're looking forward to?
No, big Betfair Hurdle fan. I've always loved that race, so looking forward to seeing it. Hope the Emmett Mullins horse isn't as good as everyone tells me he is, but it's a very, very short price to me on winning a Mickey Mouse race in the fog at Wincanton. But he's done it before, isn't he, Emmett Mullins, plenty of times. So I've been taking him on. I quite like the look of Philip Hobbs' horse, Mondial, in that. I think it was pretty quick ground when he won at Ascot on the day when they pulled all those horses out. I actually think he wants fast ground. So the less rain they get there, the better he'll be. And I think he's got plenty more improvement in him.
Okay, and David, what are you looking forward to this week?
I'm looking forward to going to Southwell on Wednesday to watch our next Coral Racing Club runner, Lady Mendoza, going in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle off at 3:40 there. Nice, good ground, dry couple of days, be right up her street. Of course, it's never too late to sign up, free to join the Coral Racing Club. Loads of great ticket giveaways, prizes, and look out, we're going to be running a brilliant Cheltenham competition coming up with a really, really special prize there. I'm also looking forward to on Saturday seeing how Ledders gets on in the bumper at Newbury for the Findon Massive. Nick Gifford and co. beat a nice Sir Mark Prescott type at Lingfield back in December. We've not seen him since, so lots to look forward to.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you, Mr. Kealy. Thank you, Mr. Segal. Thank you for everyone watching at home. Well, we'll see you next time. Good night.